What's up guys, it's McNulty here. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are all doing well, and today I want to look at the new Fated Summons. So there are plenty of new heroes in here, and I want to go through them in a little bit more detail, just to give you a little bit of an insight as to who I think that you should be having a look at, and also to help me make up my mind as to who I would want to pick with my first fated, or my first free fated summon, I should say. So I'm going to go through the rows, sort of starting from the bottom, moving from left to right. I know there have been a couple of other videos out on this, but sometimes it's good to get a second, maybe a third opinion, especially if you're only going to be able to summon one hero in this portal between now and the time it closes. So it can be a very big decision, considering which hero you'd like to pick. So getting right into it, for the first row, and I know there are a lot of season 1 heroes in this row. In fact, it's all season 1 heroes, yes, without costumes. And I've heard some people suggest that they should potentially include at least the first costume for the heroes, because pretty much all of them now have secondary costumes. And I'm not against that, but I do think that the secondary costumes especially have given us a new reason to have a second look at this first row of heroes. So for this first row, starting off with Miss Sandra in the left-hand side, you've got Miss Sandra, you've got Heimdall, you've got Isania, June, and Quintus. Now, the secondary costumes for both, for all Marjana, for June, and for Quintus would probably make me, if I had one of them, which I don't, lean towards potentially picking one of these heroes, and then you could level up a duplicate of any one of those secondary costumes. Marjana definitely has her uses in the secondary costume for the elemental defense down. And she can, her superior talent is extremely useful for dispelling. June, his secondary costume is absolutely amazing. And Quintus, as we know, he's the master of the mindless attack. So yeah, I would say that if you do have one of those secondary costumes, it might be worth thinking about choosing one of those heroes. But otherwise, for Isania and Heimdall, not really. Not a huge fan of their secondary costumes, although Isania is a pretty good hero in Rush, just as she is. So that's pretty much my suggestions as to why you would potentially pick somebody from the first row. But yeah, I wouldn't discount them completely, especially like Isania. I mean, I keep calling her Isania. Marjana and June are better than, you know, some of the other heroes in the other rows, just as they are. So let's move on to row 2, because that's where things start to get a little bit more interesting. So in row 2, we have starting off with Zimkeitha. So Zimkeitha is running at fast speed, which is definitely a benefit. She does deal damage to all enemies. Granted, it's not a huge amount of damage. And all allies get plus 25% attack for 4 turns, which would never go amiss. I mean, an increase in your attack is pretty decent. But the third part of her special, the third and the element link, is where this hero really shines. So she cleanses status ailments from all allies. So having a cleanse in 5-star hero at fast speed is very, very useful, because a lot of heroes can come at you pretty quickly and deal ailments. So short of having a fast speed ailment blocker like Garnet, having somebody like Zimkeitha who can cleanse at fast speed is pretty damn useful as well. The element link for her is that she recovers 4% health for all fire allies for 6 turns, which can also be useful for your whole team if you do attack like 3-2 or 4-1 or even mono, especially for mono attack teams. She can definitely help out in that respect as well. The family bonus is an increase to the defense. Doesn't really help all that much. So Zimkeitha's okay, but again, her costume's been recently released, so if you did manage to grab the costume, you might want to get another copy of it. And pulling her out of this portal would be an easier way for you to do so than to try and resummon in the Legends portal. Sorry, because as we all know, that could be just a futile practice. So yeah, Zimkeith is pretty cool. Zelene is pretty well the counterpart to Zimkeitha. She was released in the same year, so she's in the 2018 family as well. So she gets that defense bonus for 1, 2, or 3 heroes. And she deals a slightly lower amount, also running at fast speed, 143% damage to all enemies. And all enemies get minus 34% attack for 4 turns. So Zimkeitha, if you have her, will be increasing attack. Zelene will be decreasing the attack of the enemy and deals extra damage against ice. That's not really going to play into it that much. But she dispels buffs from all enemies. So again, at fast speed, you've got a buff dispeller and a lot of buffs flying around, a lot of painful buffs, especially the reflect buffs. I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, it definitely makes you think when you're attacking, but heroes like Hawthorne who throw up those reflect straight away, and what's the dog's name? Ferdinand, he's also extremely annoying, although I don't know if his is cleansable or not, or dispellable. But any dispellable buffs, she's just going to be able to take away at fast speed, which is really, really useful. And the element link gives plus 10% mana generation for all nature allies for 4 turns. Now, an increase of 10% mana generation for all allies is incredible if you know how to plan around it and use the right troops, and be able to boost up some of your heroes. So I mentioned in a previous video that having a Bard family hero giving a 5% mana bonus, and having a hero who is of slow speed from either the sorcerer or the monk class, that give the 4% mana bonus as part of the talent tree, will be able to technically increase them if they do have the costume with the 5% mana bonus, up to being equivalent to a what's the word I'm looking for? Shit, that was a long thing to say. But looking to get them to fire off within 9 tiles. So technically bringing them to an average speed hero. If you have Zelene in tow, though, you could almost do away with that Bard family hero. You wouldn't need them, because she's going to give the 10% mana generation for all nature allies as well, for 4 turns, and it's undispellable. So pretty good hero as well. I mean, especially in combination with each other. It used to be that they would work very well as part of a defensive squad. So you would have maybe Zimkeitha as one flank and Zelene as another. So Zimkeitha would cleanse, Zelene will dispel, and then you've got your sort of heavy hitters or your mana cut hero like Guinevere, for example, in the middle, and your 2 sort of snipers on the wings, which would have been an amazing team back in the day, but maybe not so much now. Now, moving on, we have Raphael. What can I say about Raphael? He's a bit of a lackluster hero. I mean, I say that with tongue-in-cheek because when he was released in 2020, he wasn't quite as bad as he is now, but he's not a hero that I would recommend from this second row. He is running at slow speed, and he does heal all allies who have less than 50% health back up to 50% health, which is potentially pretty useful if somebody's about to die. But all allies also regenerate HP over 4 turns, regenerating health. Again, it's not as good. We've got boosted health heroes left, right, and center nowadays, even in the 4 stars. In fact, quite a few in the 4 stars that do boosted health regeneration. He cleanses, which is okay as well, but he's running at slow speed. And I think that potentially you could use him as a clutch hero on a rush attack team. But to pull a hero with 100 summons, if you maybe only have 1 or 2 heroes that you can pull out of a portal like this, to choose Raphael over somebody else, you'd have to be pretty bonkers. Moving on. So, Milosi is our next hero. Now, this is an interesting hero, and this is an extremely good hero in today's meta. I can't stress how much you want this guy on your roster. So first of all, he's got a innate resistance to all defense ailments, so that it doesn't apply to elemental defense, but any negative status ailments and stacks that affect defense, he is going to resist them. So think of it as sort of the Styx family bonus minus the elemental defense protection. So try as you may, you won't be able to give him regular defense down, which is extremely good, especially considering that he's an older hero. His stats in the defense department and in all departments really are a little bit lower. You're not going to be able to give defense down, at least, so that's a little bit of a bonus. It's a big bonus. He's got the family bonus where he gets plus 10% for any healing received, which again helps him in terms of his survivability. And I think that is good, coupled with that passive that he has as well to keep him around. Now, his special is where he shines, and I'll just go over this and then I'll explain a bit more as to why. So he's running at very fast speed, first of all, which is amazing because within a couple of tile matches, you're going to be able to get him to fire off his special. And this is why you want the guy on your team, because his special is amazing. So he deals 300% damage to the target. Okay, but the target cannot cast any new status effects on enemies or allies for 3 turns. So what he's doing is he's shutting down buffs and he's shutting down ailments. So I'll say that again. He's stopping the enemy from casting buffs on themselves, and he's stopping the enemy from casting ailments on your team. The only thing he doesn't do is stop direct damage. And direct damage is something you can deal with. It's the ailments and it's the buffs that really make it difficult for you to win a battle. And this guy's going to make it easier for you to win. This little question mark also somewhere here does give... Yeah, this includes stacks. So another thing I wanted to mention about Milosi is if you fire him at Skadi, for example, and you've got a bunch of minions on your team, Skadi takes out all the minions. Let's say you've got 3 minions on every single hero of your team. Normally, you're going to be receiving like 1 million stacks, and your team's going to be dead within the next few turns. And there's nothing you can do about it. If you fire Milosi off anywhere within the 3 turns before Skadi fires off, even if he cleans your whole team of minions, you're not going to get any stacks. So just remember that as well about this hero. So he is an amazing counter for many different heroes. Heroes like Alfrike, that cost mindless attack on your team. Forget about it. Nothing is going to happen. They're just going to take some damage. Yes, they'll take the health reduction, but they won't take mindless attack. And heroes like Ferdinand, for example, fire him off at Ferdinand the turn or 2 before he fires, and none of those buffs are going to appear because he's immune to it. He cannot do it. So that's enough said about Milosi, but he is an absolutely brilliant hero. So I definitely highly recommend him from this portal. And now next to Milosi is another incredible hero. So in row two, we've already got two absolute shining stars. This guy is I can't even say what he's known as because I don't feel like swearing on a YouTube video, but we'll just go with the Goat Rider for now. He is of the cleric class, so it's a strange class for him because generally it's a dedicated class for a lot of healers. But yeah, I mean, it's fine. He is of the 2019 family, so he gets a family bonus, which is an increased attack stat. And you can see, if you look at his stats, his defense and his health, for a change, for an older hero, actually are really good. But he could use a little bit of help on his attack, so that 10% won't go amiss. And he also has a passive, which is an innate resistance against status ailments that affect accuracy. So he resists blind, which means that it doesn't matter if somebody casts blind on him, he's still going to be able to hit, which can be extremely frustrating if you don't have that. So it is good that he has that. And it's also good that he has that because he hits everyone with his special. So what is his special? It's called Gnomish Carnage, and he runs at average speed. So with the right troops, you're going to need 3 tile matches to fire him off. But if you do get 3 tile matches, he's going to destroy all of the minions from all enemies. So it doesn't matter how big the minions are. It could be Set's minions. It could be Holder's minions, who are super huge. He's just going to destroy them all at once. No questions asked. And he's then going to deal 235% damage to all enemies. So he's destroying the minions. He's dealing 235% damage to all enemies. And is that it? No. All allies are going to get a small amount of mana for each destroyed minion. So the small amount is equal to about 5% mana. But if everybody's got 2 or 3 minions on them, he'll wipe the board of minions, he'll damage the other team. It's not going to be a huge hit, granted, because his attack stat's not very high, but your whole team is going to end up being charged up from him going off once. And that is where Grimble is incredible, because you can pop him in with a team full of slow heroes. You could pop him in alongside heroes like Khufu, like... I forget all of these names, man. The green guy from season 5. Forget his name. Lubus, your Isanias, your Justices, Hawkall. You could pop him in with any sort of slow heroes, and within 3 tile matches, they're all going to be charged up. Doesn't matter what color. That's why I say he's an extremely clutch hero, but he can be so useful, especially when you're going up against lots of minions. So if you are struggling against minions and you find yourselves going into wars and raids and things like that, and you're struggling to beat teams where there's like a few minion summoners, or maybe some of these 3 kingdoms heroes or holder tanks, like I said before, or set tanks and things like that, you're going to want to grab this guy. If you didn't manage to get somebody like Alucard or Ojima, or these Zhao or Lao Zhu, or any of these super duper minion killers, personally the only one that I have is Gourmet, Costume Gourmet, and while he does work, he heals rather than gives mana, and if you ask me, I'd prefer the mana rather than the heal. So yeah, Grimble is an absolute superstar, and I would say that this is another hero that you should definitely grab. If you can afford to get more than one so far, it would be Milosi and Grimble. I would say that they are almost on a par with each other. It just really depends on what your needs are most. And depends on what you're able to counter the most. If you're struggling with getting past buffs, you don't have many cleansers, or people who can block heroes like Alfrike, especially in Rush and things like that, then I would recommend Milosi. But if you're struggling against minions, then I would definitely recommend Grimble. Now, let's move on before I talk too much about the same people and bore you guys to death. So, Mitsuko is featured once again, which is strange. But I think why they've done it, because she's the only other red 5-star in the Atlantis summon is Oceanus, and he is like literally brand new. So they don't want to give the best heroes in the game away to the people who spend the least money, which is greedy and horrible, but that is what they do. So if you can accept that, and if you're still playing, then that's just the way it is. So we've got Mitsuko again. She isn't a bad hero. She deals 245% damage to the target and nearby, so she hits 3. She does reduce the mana of the target and nearby by 20%, which is always useful. I mean, 20% does feel like a lot when it comes at you. And then if you plan around her, where you're attacking a team where there's 1 or 2 heavy hitters in the ice element, people like Sobek, for example, because he can bypass certain things like counterattacks, but I don't believe he can bypass her reflecting effect. From ice, negative effects from ice special skills, and 115% damage back to the attackers. So that's more than what they're dealing to you. So yeah, she can definitely be used well if you plan around her and if you have the right team to work her in with. And I would say that if you do grab her, her stats are not bad either, but I probably would focus less on the attack and use her more for the mana reduction, and also for the reflection of any ice heroes as well. Now, Atomos he's an interesting hero, because I remember when he came out, he was just the most difficult hero in the game to kill by a mile. But now, ages on, he's just an annoyance more than anything else, and he's a minor annoyance at that, because his damage is negligible. He is running at average speed, but he can deal up to 290% damage under the right sort of circumstances and with the right amounts of mana, but it's very unlikely. The annoying part is that if he dies in 5 turns, he gets resurrected with 32% health, and then you just have to kill him again and again and again, and it just gets really boring. You get how it works. Anyway, I wouldn't recommend Atomos. Miss Sandra, she is running at fast speed. She does deal 310% damage to the target, so she's a single target hitter. And she gets a 42% chance for additional hits on random enemies up to 3 times, but that does not trigger very often. The fact that all allies gain a small amount of mana for each hit is alright. But the only reason I would say for this hero to want to grab her from the Fated Summon would be if you own the costume, because the costume is obviously a mindless attack hero, as many of us know, and mindless attack is an amazing effect, so you can use her as a specialist hero in one of your attack teams. But as is, if you don't have the costume, then I would not go ahead and get her. So moving on to the next hero in this 4th row is Inari. Inari is a rogue, first of all, which makes her great because that's the best class next to the fighter class. Nah, the rogue's better. Oh, sorry. She is running at average speed, all right. She has some pretty decent attack stat, actually, for a Season 2 hero, over 800, so you can definitely get a pretty decent hit out of her special. But she does only deal 180% damage, but it is to all enemies, and she has actually been given a buff, which is great to know. Plus, she looks incredible. So if anything, if you just want her for the way she looks, I wouldn't blame you. She's incredible. Looks like a cross between Tails from Sonic the Hedgehog and just a smoking hot Asian babe. Anyway, all allies get plus 56% chance to dodge special skills for 3 turns. 56% chance to dodge is a big percentage chance. I just actually want to have a quick look in my roster. So I'll just want to have a quick look at Hanitra. She gets a 45% chance to dodge, or all allies get 45% chance to dodge for 3 turns. And what we're looking at there with Inari is 56% chance to dodge. So they're going to be dodging all over the place, man. Plus she gets an extra chance to dodge from the rogue class as well, which is, I think, is it 25% or something like that. So add those together and it is just going to be a ridiculous amount of dodging that is happening. So it's going to feel like nobody can hit you and like you're invincible, basically. But the biggest part that many people miss about Inari and why so many people are absolutely in love with her, like I said, apart from the way she looks, is that she summons, for each dodge, it summons a Sakura Fox minion. Now this little minion has 8% HP and 30% attack. So it is a pretty damn flimsy minion. It is along the same sort of lines as Water Pipe. I mean, Water Pipes are worse, but I think it's probably along the lines of Lady of the Lakes minions. Again, sorry, I'm going back and forth, but I just want to make sure that I'm giving you guys the correct information. So yeah, hers is 14% HP. All right, well, hers are even beefier than Inari's minions. But the fact is that these Sakura Fox minions add 7% mana to their owners at the end of each turn. So what's happening is almost like an elemental link, but with an elemental link, there's no chance you're going to get anywhere near that amount of mana at the end of every turn. And it adds almost, I want to say it's almost an extra tile's worth of mana. So if we had an average speed hero, on average takes about 10 tiles to charge, so 7%, it's nearly an extra tile's worth of mana. If you've got a fast speed hero, actually, if you've got a slow speed hero, then it's an extra tile and a bit's worth of mana. If you've got an average speed hero, it's just under a tile's worth of mana. So let's leave it at that. But the Fox minion is amazing. I don't know how many people know, like realize how good these little minions actually are. Because the more minions that you have, the more mana that is going to be going on. Plus she's dodging, plus she's dealing 180, or they're all dodging by 56% chance. She's dealing that 180% damage to all enemies. So she's a great all-rounder, and she makes an extremely good part of a holy attack team as well. So this is a definite steal in this portal. I love Inari. I think she's an amazing hero. This guy, on the other hand, is an absolute just... he's a piece of shit. He's fucking terrible. Sorry. Mok-R is the worst hero in all of Empires and Puzzles next to Sam and Loki. He's just bad in all ways. He deals 270% damage to all enemies, which sounds amazing at first glance at average speed, but he also deals 50% damage to all allies. And when you read that, if you start to level him up after you read that, then you need your eyes checked, because he's damaging his own team as part of his special. He also deals extra damage against Holy, and all dark allies and enemies are immune to this attack. So he's not really dealing 270% damage to all enemies. He's dealing it to enemies that aren't dark. And sorry, I'm struggling to stop myself from laughing, but he deals extra damage against the holy one as well. Yeah, this is a bad hero. You should definitely not pick this guy, even if you've exhausted all of your options for this summon portal. I'd still not want to pick him, or maybe pick him just so that you can have him and say that you own one of the worst heroes in the game. Let's move on. So from season three, third row now. I mean, last final row. We've got Gef John. So Gef John, she's a great hero, man. She's running at fast speed. Her special skill is literally 2 lines long. I mean, what more do you want? Just keep it simple and keep it freaking on point. She steals minions from the target. Great. So whoever you target at fast speed, if they have minions, she's going to steal them. After she steals those minions, she's going to whack them for 500% damage to the target. Brilliant. Fast speed sniper, ranger class, sorry, so she's got a chance to bypass as well as stealing the minions. And if you plan her and take her up against the right team, especially thinking about it, we've just had Ruffian and Nergib, who's another like minion eater, and she's great. I think that they might work well together, although the only downside, I guess, would be that if Ruffian and Nergib eats the minions before she has a chance to steal them. So it might not work as well as I think. But she can definitely be paired up with some pretty decent heroes. And if you have somebody who's going to pop defense down or elemental defense down, like Costume Marjana, for example, or even in the 4-star range, you could use a bunch of heroes. But yeah, she's just going to be able to finish the job, no problem. And if you're looking for a fast sniper and you're looking for someone who can deal with minions, she doesn't deal with minions quite as well as Mr. Grimble, but she is running at fast speed and she does have a much harder hit and much more up-to-date stats. The only downside with this hero is that her HP is slightly low, very low. So yeah, I think maybe once or twice about that, and you probably want to level up on the HP and attack. If you can split them that way, the defense stat is pretty good. So yeah, another good hero, Heimdall. So he's an interesting one because he kind of does quite a few things pretty well. He can fit into a rush defense team if you need a reviver really, really badly. But his revive is really, really bad. It is only a 20% chance for each fallen ally to get revived. However, they do get revived with 30% HP, so it's a pretty decent revive. I was lucky enough to pull the costume for Heimdall. I'm not usually that lucky, but I did get lucky with the costume for Heimdall. And that costume makes him extremely usable. But as he is, the revive is not the main reason to want him. He is probably one of the best slow speed health boosters still. He boosts the health of all allies by 500, which is a pretty decent amount. Granted, he is running at slow speed, so I think he's a little bit dated except for use in the rush format. So if you don't have a health booster, he would definitely be a good pick. I would say I would be very cautious if you don't have a reviver, as picking him and then thinking that you now have a reviver, because I would say you probably don't. But I do have like a sneaky suspicion that we might see a reviver come around in the soul exchange this time. So I know we were sort of hoping and praying that Albie would be in the last one, and he wasn't. So maybe if you are still upset about not being able to get Albie, then maybe Heimdall would be okay. But yeah, he's an okay hero. We'll put him in like the okay category, like the maybe. So far we've got Grimble is a definite, Milosi is a definite, and Inari. So those three, I'm going to say, absolute 100%. I would choose those three over any of the other heroes that we've gone through so far. And now we are getting into the realm of the absolute bonkers. So this is Mr. Sir Lord Loki, and he is probably one of the most value protected heroes in the game, because he is every single hero all rolled into one. So, I mean, for those who don't know, what he does is he copies the target's special skill and uses it as if it was his own. So any special skill in the game, whether it's running at slow speed, average speed, very slow speed, or fast speed, can be yours for the price of your soul, your 100 souls. Which is so amazing. I just can't explain how good that is. So basically, Loki is just going to be such a clutch hero because you can use him. In fact, I use him on an attacking team where I've just got I use 3 red heroes. I use Lord Loki, and then I use what's that? I'm not doing really well with names today. And I use the Blue Witch, Melina. Right. So, I mean, I've got Loki in here as well, so I can show you what he looks like with emblems without the max power preview thingy, just to give you an idea. So if you did grab Loki and you popped emblems on him, he's going to look something like this. So 819 attack, 855 defense, and 1492 health. For mine, I went defense and health because he definitely needs it. But if you were to just limit break this guy, you're going to see, if I go back to the fated summon bit for a second, and I know I'm messing around here and going back and forth, but I just want to sort of get the best idea of what we can get out of Loki. We're going to get nearly 1100 attack, which is amazing, and that's not going to go amiss, especially if you're copying some heavy hitting specials like Khufu, for example. In fact, that's one of my favorite uses for Loki at the moment, is copying guys like Khufu and watching them get destroyed because they've got a great team, and they've got heroes that I don't have. So he's amazing. 988, nearly 1000 defense, and 1737 health. So adding a second limit break to this guy would just absolutely put him into the realms of just being probably your favorite hero that you'll ever have. So yeah, Lord Loki is a definite must. I do have a second copy of Lord Loki, and again, I'm sorry for doing this, but second copy of Lord Loki here, who's not even started yet. So I think for me, choosing Lord Loki to have 3 of him when I can't even level 2 would be a bit optimistic. But yeah, I would say he is definitely an absolute G. If you don't have him, grab him. He would take precedence so far over any other hero in this portal. Moving on to Sif. Sif, let's have a look at her. So 788 attack, decent, 716 defense, 1339 health, so pretty good stats for the season 3 hero. She is of the rogue class, so that's a good benefit. She gets the chance to dodge attacks, special skills, and the caster and nearby allies counter attack with 100% of the damage received for 4 turns. So Sif is great because she does a lot of good defensive things that are also offensive. So she's both defensive and offensive at the same time, if that makes sense. So the counter attack is just amazing. 4 turns is a long time. The caster and nearby allies reduce or receive damage by 50% for 4 turns. So I want to explain this correctly. So what happens with Sif, normally when you have a hero that counter attacks, you want the defense to be slightly lower, not too low, because the counter attack is dependent on the amount of damage that you deal to the hero reflected back to the attacker. Where with Sif, the amount of damage that you deal to the hero only deals 50% of what the damage you're dealing is, but the reflect that you get back on the counter attack is equal to 100% of the damage that you would have been dealing to that hero. I hope that makes sense. So if you hit if you hit Sif for like 1,000 damage, she'll only take 500 of that, but you'll have 1,000 reflected right back at you. And that's why she's so good, because she gives that effect to herself and to the nearby allies. And because it lasts for 4 turns, the caster and nearby allies also, if that wasn't enough, get plus 24% mana generation for 4 turns. So they've pulled out all the stops with this fated summon, in my humble opinion, because I think she is another just great hero that they've included in this summon as well. And another one that I don't have, funnily enough, I don't have a lot of these guys. And then Beera is our last hero in this one. So Beera, I mean, she is an amazing minion control hero as well. So Beera can easily take the place of Grimble if you're just using the hero for minion control. But she just summons these moth minions at fast speed, which prevent all of the targets that they hit from getting new minions for 3 turns. And she's a great tank, and she can also be used on attack teams. If you bring her up against a strong minion team who's got most of the strongish minion heroes are running at average to slow speed. So someone like Hulda, for example, if you manage to get your 2 and a bit tile matches and fire Beera off, she's going to disable the rest of the team from being able to summon minions. I mean, yes, it's sort of 50-50 as to whether or not your minion's going to hit, but if everybody's got a minion on your team, the chances are they're going to be able to hit that hero. So yeah, Beera is a great hero, and she also is of the Vanaheim realm, which is the realm that you want. I wish that all of the season 3 heroes were of the Vanaheim realm, because that would just make life for heroes for people that own them a lot nicer, but not for the heroes that are attacking them. It's the mana cut. So if the Vanaheim hero dies, the mana of all enemies is reduced by either -5, -10, or -15%. So the other interesting thing about the Vanaheim realm, and this was used to great effect when the Beera Freya combos were working extremely well, is that the more heroes you have, the bigger the mana cut is when the hero dies. But then, yeah, you don't really want your heroes to be dying in this day and age. You want them to survive for as long as possible. So yeah, Beera, I hope I haven't talked you out of wanting her, but she is an absolutely amazing hero. And again, for me, not going to be the one that I'm going to choose first, because somehow, weirdly, I pulled 2 Beeras, I think. Yeah, there we go. So I've got 2 Beeras sitting in my roster, both of them literally unleveled. So I really don't need a 3rd Beera at the moment. So who do I need? Looking at this lot of heroes, I mean, there are so many that I really, really want. And I think for me at the moment, my biggest sort of issue is going to be the emblems. So I've got a mass of emblems in here. 2,775 of them are cleric emblems, and I'm low on quite a few of the others. So for me, it would make sense for me to choose somebody who is a cleric and somebody that I don't have. And one of the heroes that I said would be the best heroes to summon in this portal. So if we just recap, it would be Milosi, Grimble, Inari, Lord Loki, Sif, and if you have enough summons left over, either Beera or maybe Geoff John, depending on what your needs are. So those, I think, are probably the best heroes in this portal. I hope that this video has helped you guys in some way. And my choice finally is going to be Mr. Grimble. Because I really need a minion control hero, and because I've got over 2,500 emblems. So once I get him up, he'll go up straight away. So this is going to be my first choice. Exciting times. You've selected Grimble the goat riding gnome. Am I sure I want to continue? Hell yeah. Boom. Fated Summon number 1 is done. So thank you guys all for watching. I hope you found this video helpful and useful. Please drop us a like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think about the heroes in the Fated Summon. Let me know if you think I got it right or if I got it wrong, or if I'm just talking a load of